Good day, everyone out there. Dr. Jonathan Shepherd here. So glad to be with you once again. This is a wonderful day to go into the healing room. Man, I'm so grateful that so many of you are already joining. I need you right now to go ahead and let those persons know who want to join us today in the healing room that the healing room is now live. I love this particular platform because it allows for us to actually engage with the audience live. So it's a little different from other podcasts where they're are already recorded. We're actually going to be taking questions and comments from our live listeners and viewers. And so go ahead. I encourage you to go ahead and share and to like. So right now, stop what you're doing, share with the people who you know need to hear this. We want to get to a certain number of active viewers who are engaged in today's conversation. Got a powerful conversation today and want you to make sure everyone you know is involved in this. The healing room was an idea that I came up with after the pandemic. I was led to continue to provide mental health dialogue and education and not, well, I don't want to use the word services because I want to be clear about that. I'm not providing treatment, but I'm providing education and how to get to services. And so have continued that particular passion and interest and that thrust that I have to make sure that people are okay. And let me tell you, 2026, so much has happened. And that really lets me know that the healing room is necessary. So much is going on in our world today. Who would have thought that these things that have occurred thus far in the year of 2026, that we will be experiencing war, that we'll be experiencing famine, seeing death on the level that we are, suicide, mental illness that is affecting people who were once stable, but because of what has happened in their lives, now mental illness and mental health is now one of the major topics that people are requesting because anxiety, depression, even delusional disorders are rampant. And so the healing room is necessary. I am so glad that you all are here. Let me get started. Just give you some time to come on in to share. Let me go ahead and get started to talk about what we're going to do today in the healing room. And I appreciate all those who are here right now. The healing room, welcome to it. The healing room is a space that is carved out for honest conversations about emotional and mental wellness. The healing room is a space where we tell the truth about how we're really doing and where faith, healing, and practical tools sit at the same table. This is a place for people who are ready to grow, ready to release, and ready to realign with who they are becoming. Today, we're leaning into a theme that touches all of us at some point: releasing what no longer aligns. Wow. Releasing what no longer aligns. We're going to talk about how to recognize when something in your life, your relationships, your routines, your beliefs, even your life story or self story has quietly slipped out of alignment. We'll explore the real cost of holding on to things that no longer serves you, that no longer fits, or no longer reflects who you are. And most importantly, we'll walk through practical, grounded tools to help you release what's misaligned so you can make room for what's true. Wow. So when you release, you're making room for more. So, you know what? Let's settle in. Go ahead and share. Take a deep breath. You're in the healing room. This is your invitation to notice, to name, and to let go. So you can step back into alignment with the life you're called to live. That's our opening statement for today's show. I hope that you all get a hold of that. Thank you for sharing, Sharon, Renee Amos. Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Sarita Watson. So many of you all are faithful viewers, and I appreciate your support. Thank you for joining us. So let's dive into this. I want to share with you a picture, a graphic. I'm going to share with you a picture, a graphic as part of my introduction, and then we're going to bring on our guest. Um, let's show this graphic of the tire. Um, and with that picture, if you can go ahead and put that picture up of the tire, we have a tire, and if we're not going to get it up, I'm going to give you this visual image. I was driving my car, probably about this time last year, and I got a flat tire after probably 3 or 4 months where I just got new tires. And when I got the tire, I was like, hey, cool. 3 or 4 months down the line, I got a flat on that car, on that tire with my car. And I was like, how is it that I got a flat tire on a new tire that I just got 3 or 4 months ago? And once I made it to my destination, called AAA and to get the tire replaced. And as they were changing the tire, they said, Dr. Shepard, did you notice that the outside of the tire looks good, but the inside of the tire is bald? I said, no. So he said, come here and look at it. So when I looked at it, I saw that the outside of the tire looked good. And if anybody can imagine what the tire looks like, forgive me for not having the graphic, the picture available. But when you look at a tire, you see the tread, and you should be able to put a coin into it. That's to show you how deep it should be. So on the outside, it was good, but on the inside, I literally saw wires hanging out. And I was like, whoa, what is this? He said, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. The inside of your tire is bald, but the outside of your tire looks good. And what it showed me was that the car was out of alignment. He said, this happens to tires when your car has not been aligned right. I said, oh my God. I said, how did this? He said, yeah. However, whoever did your car alignment, you had new tires, but apparently they did not align the car right after they put the new tires on your car. Wow. And what that showed me in this metaphor that I'm using is that you can have a newness, new mindset, new wardrobe, whatever it might be. But if you're out of alignment, all it takes is the 3 or 4 months and you'll find yourself flat. You'll find yourself not operating in the place of where you should be. Powerful, powerful revelation through that illustration. And let me tell you, that's where today's episode comes into play. We want to make sure that we just don't look good on the outside and we are flat on the inside, got our wires showing, got other areas of our lives that people think we're good, but on the inside, there's deficits. And this happens when you're misaligned. And so I have a special guest with me today. She's going to take even this particular illustration, this particular metaphor further, and we're going to be aligned even in our presentation with you today. But yeah, thank you for those who are joining. I see the comments. Yeah, so I want you to be open and honest with yourself. Like I said in our opening statement, this is your time to take notice. This is your time to name. This is your time to let it go. And I hope that this particular episode of the Healing Room will allow just that type of space for you. So, next on our introductions, I have Pastor Misha Maynard, who is a wonderful friend of mine, and she's going to help me to further this conversation today in the healing room. She's got a lot to say, and I like our vibe together. Um, Pastor Misha, come on in the room. How you doing?
Actually doing very well this uh, evening, and so thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here in the healing room. I love this space where there's no judgment and there's an opportunity for people to really get real and then deal with anything that's going on that they need to release. So that we can move forward and be the best version that God has designed for us to be. So I'm so excited about even this topic. I'm excited about it. When I heard you you presented it to me and said, "Will you join me on that?" I said, "Yes," because you know what I feel like this. If do you mind me calling you Jonathan, or do not?
No,
Do I need to put the doctor on there?
absolutely.
Okay, so it just I don't think we talk enough about misalignment in our
Mm,
relationships, business dealings, even in ministry, in vision. We don't talk enough about it. And then the next thing that we really don't really dive into is how do we correct the misalignment? How do we release and then realign with the right? So we don't talk enough about that in certain spaces. And I think it's so important. So I'm so grateful for the healing room. So very, very grateful for that.
as you all can see, she's ready.
I am. I
she,
am.
she pulled it back just a little bit. Uh, yeah. So let's get into this. I want to get your comments about the graphic, the metaphor that I just used with the
Hmm.
tire, because we've been going back and forth with this metaphor.
Hmm.
Share with us your comments about that.
You know what's interesting is that you were driving. So let's just take this into consideration. You were driving, which means you were able to get from point A to point B. Your car was still moving, the engine was still running, everything else was working, but you were not in alignment. And so I think a lot of times this is what happens to us in our own lives, is that we're still functioning, we're still going to work, we're still engaging, we're still having relationships, we're still producing. And so we don't take the time to deal with the misalignment because it's not stopping us from getting to the places that we think we're supposed to be going to. It was not until you had a flat tire that you dealt with the misalignment. Think about that. It was not
Right.
until then. You would have kept going in the car. You would have still used the same tires. You would have still continued to move forward. But it was not until you had the flat tire that you could no longer go any further that you dealt with the situation. And I think that we have to take the time to assess ourselves, as we're saying today in this healing room, in this space, to really say, are we truly in alignment in every area of our lives? Just because my engine is running, just because I'm making the finances that I'm supposed to make, just because this is good, is all of me good? Is all
Wow.
of me where I'm supposed to be?
Wow.
And really do ourselves a favor and be true to us so that we can be the best version again that God has made us.
Wow. So again, we're going to stay there. We're going to keep this car moving. I normally say
Mhm,
train, but since we're talking
mhm,
about cars here,
mhm,
I want people out there again. Think about how you're running on your day to day, or how you're running in your day to day life. Cars run on fumes, right? Um,
mhm,
and you put out exhaust.
mhm,
And if you're not careful, you're running and you're just running on fumes. And your tank is now empty, in addition to the fact that your car might be misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not careful, those fumes as you're running could literally suffocate you.
Mm-hmm.
As you go, man, I tell you, this metaphor is really good.
Yeah.
Um, as we're developing it.
And
Yeah,
and you think
go
about
ahead.
this too. Do you think about this too, though, Jonathan? The price that you bought new tires. So you bought tires, they were put on incorrectly. So that was outside forces. Outside forces caused you problems. Let's just do this again. You trusted subject matter experts to do something correct that was incorrect for you.
Mm,
And then you had to pay another price because your tires were not aligned. And I need people to really let this sit right here in your heart and in your mind. When we operate in misalignment, we pay additional price. There's an additional cost for our lives when we are in misalignment. When we continue to go on. See, if you would have caught it early, they could have moved your tires around, shifted them around so that it would have got even. They would have balanced your car, all those different things like that. But because it was not caught soon enough, now there's an extra cost. And I wasn't there with you, but I'm just going to jump out here and just speculate because I've been in the car. I've been in that situation. When
yeah,
they looked at the other tires, you probably not only needed that flat tire change, a new tire. You probably had to get new tires for
that's
either
right.
all four or at least for the front two or the back two, whichever one. You still had to get new tires. So now you're out of pocket monies or expenses where you may not have projected for it. And I'm telling you, this is what happens to us. We are going strong, we're doing it, but then there's this big cost that we have to pay because we did not check our alignment, our tires. Go ahead. I
Wow.
know you get ready to get it.
Wow, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. There's a question. Thank you, Deborah Smith,
Mhm,
because you said something, Pastor Misha, and I am
mhm,
going to address this question. That's why I told you this
mhm,
is this is very different from most podcasts or episodes because we're live with our viewers, and so I love
mhm,
the interaction. She asked the question: "Is all of me good?"
mhm,
And that's a really good question because people will ask that question.
mhm,
And let me tell you, thank you for even having the courage to put that out there. And I want to encourage anybody else who has any other questions to please ask. Is all of me good? Well, let me tell you, what the Lord makes, He doesn't make any mistakes. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, yes, we were born into a world of corruption, we were born into a world of sin, but God did not make any mistake about how we were made. He did not make any mistake
amen,
on how we were created. So I hear you on that. And what happens, Deborah, is that as God's creation, as God's human being, woman or man, we get out of alignment. We were born into a world that was out of alignment due to sin. And that's why we have a savior who brings us back into alignment. The issue that we have is that even though we may have a savior and we may give our lives back to the Lord, is that we will allow other things to creep in. We will allow other things to creep in into our mental health space, if you would, or our mental wellness and cause us to be deficient. There are different things that will occur in our lives that some of us, they were not even intentional. Some things happen to us that was not our that they happened to us because of things that we were exposed to. Uh,
mhm,
then some things we fell into because we went and did it. So it's on both ends. And because of those things that have happened to us, whether it be by accident, by mistake, by intention, we will find ourselves out of alignment. And that's when we begin to question, man, I'm having these thoughts. I'm having these various things, anxiety, various memories that are popping up into my head. And it really hurts me to think that I'm not all good. Now, I'm not saying that that may be you, Deborah, but I guarantee you there's someone out there who's listening right now who struggles with that because I see that in my practice, Pastor Mission, where
mhm,
people struggle asking themselves, am I worth it? So I don't want to go too far down that lane, but I just wanted to answer that question. Yes, is all of you good? Yes, all of you is good. I just talked about the different factors though that will cause us to have those deficits. Um, yeah, so let's leave that right there. There's another question that's out there before we go further. This question asks, "How do you bounce back from failure?" Pastor Misha, did you want to tackle that a little bit, and then we'll take this further? How do you bounce back from failure?
It, just staying with the car metaphor.
Mhm.
One of the things that happens after first you're assessing yourself, and then you had to take your car in, and sometimes we do need to get professional help. Okay, so I want to say that in this setting, and especially in this community, that we do need to seek outside of ourselves oftentimes, for professional help, and also doing some self assessments on our own and being honest. But once we have started addressing the areas that may be incomplete, we need to then sometimes we have to course correct, and we can't take the same routes that we used to take home.
Mm.
Sometimes those same routes that we took before is what has caused our car to go into misalignment. We're hitting too
Yeah,
many potholes.
I hope.
We're running over the railroad tracks. I think about when I wasn't as financially solid as I am now, and I had a little get up and go that just got me from A to B. And I would run over those railroad tracks. I'm just trying to get, I'm rushing here, rushing there because I'm trying to just make it. And a lot of times that's what happens to us. We align ourselves with people, with places, with things that causes us injuries, that causes a situation, that causes us pain. Some of the things that you were talking about. But once we get free, once we regroup, once we get there, now we're going to make better choices. And this is one of the things
Mm.
I always says: the decisions that you make testify of your priorities. When you start making yourself your priority, you'll decide, you'll make decisions, you'll seek out what's best for you. Now, yes, I don't just, go get any car, just anything they give to me. I'm looking at the car that's going to work best, that's best suited for me, for my lifestyle, for what I need to, in order for me to function. And the same thing needs to say for ourselves. Change the way I eat, change the way I think, change the way I move, change the way I groove. So that's going to help us so that as we come back, when we talk about from the failure, as we come back, we start making better choices for ourselves. Why? I am my priority. I want everybody that's on here right now to put in
Mm.
the chat, I am my priority. You
That's right.
just put that in the chat for yourself. Tap yourself, put it in the chat. I am my priority. We got to prioritize ourselves. And I tell you what, that will put us on the right track for success.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, if we can put that up, I am my priority. I want to put that up before we go to any more questions. Absolutely. I am my priority. I love it. I love it. I love it. Can we put that up um, instead of the question right now for the banner? I want to see that. I am my priority. I am my priority. I love it. I am my priority. Pastor Misha,
Yeah.
um, I, I, I want us to share some stories.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, Part of the healing room is we being vulnerable, we, myself, and those who are invited into the healing room to share with our listeners stories of how we were out of alignment and how we were able to get back aligned.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and share because there are various things that may cause misalignment.
Mhm.
There's emotional neglect, there's unhealthy relationships. There's constant disappointment. There's a lot of things that happen, and I'm going to share a personal story that happened. I think about professionally. I'll start there, and then Pastor Misha, you go and share as you feel. But I'm going to just start professionally. So many people know me as a physician, and let me tell you, if you look at my journey, look at my trajectory of how I've got to where I am, there have been a lot of potholes, been a lot of disappointments. And I had to be honest with you, there were times where I did not feel and did not believe that I was worthy of where I am today. That is a whole nother subject called imposter syndrome. But yes, but once you make it to a place, you have to understand that there is a destination and there's a time and a season for that destination, and then understand that there are further levels to move on. I remember I was at a job. Um, Actually, I'll even go back even further. Many people know me from the city of Chicago. That's where my parents are. And I was born and raised in Chicago. So shout out to some folks in Chicago. I saw Linda Woods out there. There's a few people from Chicago who are listening and who are on right now. So, hey, Chicago. And that's where I was born and raised. And guess what, Pastor Mission? I thought I was going to practice in Chicago. Had went ahead, had made plans to get a condo there. Have finished medical school. Have finished my psychiatry residency training there, and so I was ready. I was serving as a youth pastor at St. Luke Church of God in Christ. I mean, I was, things were falling in place for me, and the Lord told me, "I need you to get ready to move to go to Johns Hopkins Hospital." Now, Johns Hopkins is not in Chicago. So I was like, well, God, Johns Hopkins is not in Chicago. So how am I supposed to go between Chicago and Baltimore? And I'll be honest with you, I was scared to death. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to happen. And I started, I'm a logical person, at least I think I am. And I began counting up and making plans to see how this would work. I didn't have the financial resources. I started looking at what it would take to move. I didn't have any immediate family out there. And yet I knew that this was the place I was supposed to be at. Let me tell you, when a season is up and when you have to step out, fear will grip you. Yeah.
Mhm.
When you're out of alignment,
Mhm.
there's almost a little bit of comfort, even though you realize that something is wrong, which is, man, that's so huge right there. I feel that. Even when you're out of alignment, people will stay out of alignment because it's just what they're used to doing.
Mhm.
Now, could I have driven the tire? Now, could I have driven the car on the flat tire? I did, because you're right. I reached my destination, but guess what? I got there much slower than what I should have. And when it came time for me to change venues, change my place of residence to Baltimore to go to Johns Hopkins, I was fearful. I didn't have the financial resources. My dad is a CPA, and we set up and count up the cost, and the amount of money that it was going to take for me to live out there did not match up the amount of money I was going to make there. There was a deficit, and I just had to, and I knew it was God, because my father said, "I believe God wants you to go," even when the money didn't add up. That's huge. Anybody who knows my dad,
Right.
right? And so I went ahead and went, and let me tell you, jumping to the end of the story, it's one of the best decisions I've have ever made, because I believe that there was a level of exposure, a level that I would not have experienced if I had stayed. Even when I was comfortable in where I was at, I had to realize I had to release. Remember, release what no longer lies, release where I was so I could move to the higher level, so that even if I ever go back to Chicago, I could even help on a whole different level. I have now have exposure in Baltimore, Chicago, all over the nation, really even the world. I've been able to touch people all over this world. And I wonder what would have happened, Pastor Mission, if I had stayed put and not released the fear of what I had. Now, that's just one of my personal stories. I might share some more, but I just wanted to start with that. Someone out there is facing a decision regarding your profession. And I want you to know that if you're listening today, if God has told you that it is time to move, that this particular season that you're in professionally is no longer in alignment with where you are at, hear me. If it is God, He will bring you through. Wow.
Yes. Amazing.
I'm going to stop there.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I have to do my shout outs because you gave your shout outs. And so my Aunt Darlene said, I'm here watching. So
Hey, Darlene.
let me shout out my Aunt Darlene, my sister Deborah Smith, the one that you just called out. She is out here watching. Friends Bridget Burks and Reva O'Neill, they both put it out there that they're out there watching. So I got to give a shout out because they all want to make sure that their names are given call. So I want to make sure I call my people. But you know, when you were talking there, I was just thinking about years ago. I was working for, hey, Kim Smith is out there from our church, but I was working in Indiana, and this I'm just going to do this very quickly, but it
Mhm.
was time to move. It was time, what I had been doing for years was no longer what I could do going forward. And I think this is very key because a lot of times when we think misalignment, we think that we became, misaligned on the onset. Sometimes it's the season. The season has changed. Now you're out of alignment. So what you were doing, for 5, 7 years, what you are in alignment, but now the season has changed. It's just like when sometimes you have to change your tires. Let's go back to the car because it's winter. You need snow tires now. Those other
Right.
tires are not working. So you're going to be out of alignment because the season has changed. And so the season had changed for me. And it was time for me to leave the occupation that I had. And I say it this way, I no longer had the grace to do what I had been doing. I had
Wow.
no longer had the grace to do. So getting up in the morning and going to work every day and putting in the hours and putting in the time, now all of a sudden it seemed cumbersome. It was heavy. It was draining. I was tired. I wasn't at peace. It seemed like I didn't have it to give. And beforehand it was easy, and what was easy is now hard. And I think sometimes
Mhm.
that sometimes is an indication that what was once easy is no longer easy. It's hard to do, and nothing else has changed. Nothing has changed except for the season has changed. And so we have to pay attention to that. We need to be true to ourselves because sometimes seasons change. On yesterday during our 7 a.m., I said this. I gave the illustration of the caterpillar and the butterfly, and I'm gonna say this again. I'm gonna put it here with this audience. Some of us are still operating like we caterpillars, and we've already gone through the cocoon season, and now we're butterflies. We trying to still climb up the tree trunk to get to the branch. Sweetheart, you have wings. Would you please start flying? and and I said this to them, and I'm gonna say it here. I am too big. I'm too big in this season for me to be dealing with that small stuff. I'm too butterflied to be dealing with caterpillar seasons. I'm too butterflied. So just, that's another thing when you get ready to move forward. When we talk about that releasing, when you realize who you are and who God has made you to be, you will understand that I'm too butterflied. I'm too big to be operating in that other season. It is time to move forward and change. So I know we're gonna get there. We got some toolkits for you all, to go over. So I'm a step back right there. So somebody else
Wow.
question or a comment.
No, thank you, thank you. My pastor is out there. I want to say good evening, Pastor Karen Bathia, Dr. Josephine Simmons, who's also from my church, and a few others. Paula Bland, who I know. I mean, just thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us, man. I appreciate this. Let's talk a little bit about something else. Relationships,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
relationships. This
mm-hmm,
is a touchy subject,
mm-hmm,
and it's a touchy subject for some, not for everybody.
mm-hmm,
But I want to go there because we're talking about releasing what no longer aligns.
mm-hmm,
I remember clearly during the pandemic, I had a shift, if you would, of people who I used to be around, and this was in my friend world, if you would, my ministry world, and it was difficult. Pastor Mission, let me tell you, it's difficult when you realize that you have outgrown the people around you.
Mhm.
And it's also difficult too when you find out that the people who are in your circle or around you really don't mean you any good. And I experienced that. I really did. Come to find out that there were people who were saying some negative things that were not true. Um, made assumptions, and again, people who you trusted. And even during the pandemic, the Lord shut everything down, of course, around the world. But I understand now that for many people, I speak for myself, it was a shutdown to reassess
Mhm.
what things really are in alignment for you. I tell people that if the pandemic had not happened for me and I had not taken advantage of this time to reassess in my life, I know I wouldn't be where I am today. There was a revival, there was a resurgence that God did within me. And I know I got some people on here who may not be believers in God. That's all right. That's cool. Because again, I know this audience is vast, but
Mhm.
I stand firm in knowing whose I am and who I
Mhm.
serve. I make no apologies for that. And there was a resurgence, a revival that happened. And let me tell you, people began to change around me when I changed, when I realized that the conversations that I had were not necessarily a negative, but they no longer met the needs. My appetite had changed. The
Mhm.
alignment of where I was going. I could no longer serve. I could no longer be in relationship with certain people. It wasn't necessarily a bad. They weren't necessarily doing bad things. Relationships had changed. And let me tell you, that's hard when you are in close contact with people and you recognize that you're now going in divergent paths, in different pathways, and you recognize that where you're headed is different from where they're going, and you recognize that you can no longer have them that close to you. I'm thankful to God, and I'm open and honest enough and transparent. I could not have done that. I'll be honest with you. To be sharing it on this particular platform some years ago, man, I would have been like, let's turn this thing off.
Wow.
But I am confident, thank you, Lord, on where I am today. And I even look sometimes at my phone and I'm like, man, I haven't really had no phone calls today, haven't had no text messages. Um, and God has said, yeah, that's because I'm still getting you back into alignment to where I want you to be at. It takes some time. Again, and guess what, Pastor Misha? He's still not done.
Mm-mm. Amen.
There's still there's still some relationships I believe that God is going to bring into my life to be able to cultivate other areas of my life that I want to continue to grow in. I want to continue to further my life in. Um, I want to stop right there. I wanted to share that portion of what I had to releasing relationships that no longer were beneficial to where I was headed professionally, where I was headed personally. Some relationships, let me tell you, Pastor Bishop, they're just draining. Every time they call, you go like, what? Like, what was this? And then people will call you and they'll just call you just to get information to pass on to somebody else. And that's when I found out what was happening. And I was like, whoa, God, you got to help me. Um, and I was honest with God. I'm gonna stop right here. I was honest with God. I said, God, show me who I need to be in a relationship with. And he did. And he showed me who I needed to cut off. He showed me who I needed to continue to be in relationship with. And I'm so thankful. This is an area that people find really touchy, though, Pastor Mitch. I don't know. You want to comment on that?
Yes, I do, but I got a question for you because you brought it up, and
Yes.
that is, I think this is one of the areas that we can really talk about in this space, and many people have when we talk to them about um, changing your relationships and kind of shedding off certain people so that you can make room for people that God wants you to come in your life. But is there a grieving? Um, is there grief that goes along with that? Because like, if
Wow.
can you talk about that?
Man, you gonna mess me up here. It- there, no, there is a grieving.
Okay.
Um, there is a grieving. That's powerful. There's a
Mhm,
grieving when you have to let go of people who you used to be in close contact with.
mhm,
You used to call them regularly, consistently. You may even had good fellowship with them, prayer with them, and then you recognize, wow, this is no longer in alignment with
mhm,
where I'm going.
mhm.
There was a, and I'll be honest with you, when I see some of them, I can still feel it.
That's good. That's good. And you're being honest. So here's the thing too, is I believe that you being honest with yourself as to not just the grieving, because I grieved when I started, intentionally pruning relationships. I grieved, but I also had to be honest with myself. A lot of my grieving came from I was not used to being with myself.
Mm,
So a lot of relationships
wow.
that I had were out of alignment or they were misaligned because they should have never even been that type of relationship because I had not sat with myself to know what I actually needed in
Wow.
order to be successful. So I'm like you during the pandemic and some other times, um, I was able to sit with me and get a true understanding of what God has for me. And
Mm,
then my approach now in everything that I do is so different than what it was. We can just say pre-pandemic, okay,
hmm.
or
Yeah.
2020. And I need to throw this in here for everybody that's out here watching. I met you January 2020 in
Yes.
Los Angeles, California at the leadership conference is when you and I met right before the pandemic. And I just say that because seasons do change.
Wow.
As he said that, we didn't know we were gonna go through the pandemic. We didn't know that we were gonna have to be we stayed in contact with each other through the pandemic. Our friendship literally developed when everybody else was shutting down. We were evolving as friends and really being supporters of one another, pushing each other, encouraging each other. Hey, you can do this. And so I just say that when you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, like we became anyway.
Wow.
So I do think that that's important that we understand that's the reason why we grieve, the reason why we have emotional detachments and why we feel certain ways. A lot of times because we don't want to deal with ourselves, but I'm going to go
Mm,
back there and say again, when you make yourself your priority, you will be very careful of who comes in contact with you, how long they stay in contact with you, how they're going to interface with you. You'll make those determinations so that you can make sure that you are in alignment. And I think that that's important because one of our biggest things I hope that we get to before we close this out is setting boundaries for yourself. You are responsible for the boundaries that you set for yourself. Your boundaries cannot be determined by nobody else. They're determined by you and only you. I am responsible for who has access to me and how they have access to me.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, this is good because I see some people commenting, and thank you for continuing to comment. I love the dialogue. This is good. Um, I want to stay with what you said, learning to sit well, and Charmaine
Mhm,
Sanders, thank you. You're right on time with posting. Learning to sit and to hear from God.
mhm,
I want to share this. My pastor preached a message just before the close of the year. She preaches phenomenal messages, by the way, but she preached a message about healing the inner child in you. And that thing has stayed with me because I find that people will get into relationships many times based off of situations that they've dealt with since childhood,
Mhm.
looking to fulfill or meet deficiencies or meet needs that they
Mhm.
need even from childhood. It's amazing. I'll just share this. Sometimes you even go back to where you were born, where you were raised, and
Mhm.
you go and you see some of the same people in the same state of mind, physical
Mhm.
state when you left them.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
And if you had not had the courage to get up and to go, you would still be where they are right now. I see that so many times. That's why I love Facebook. That's where we're broadcasting now to YouTube. And so many of my high school friends will hit me up. These are the same people, Misha, and even if some of them are watching, I was not the popular kid in high school. And I used to get teased. I used to get talked about. I got talked about because of uh, 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 I had a big head. I used to wear big glasses, and they used to call me Shepherd Head. And it was one of those type of things where I got teased quite a bit, and they teased me about my clothes. I even think, again, I'm just being so vulnerable. I think that's even why now I take so much care in how I appear now because I used to get talked about even
Mhm.
at that point in time. But I recognize is that if I had not allowed myself to release the past, to release that mindset, to release where I had those things that I had been born up and raised up with, to allow my mind to expand and to grow, I would still be in that same place where so many of them are at. And I tell you that that's powerful. That's powerful. So I want to challenge people as we continue to move along this conversation. I want to challenge the people out there today. Do a relationship audit. That's the thing I'm talking about. Do a relationship audit because your friendships should be doing a few things. They should either be transforming you, they should be forming you, or well, I hate to say this, they could be deforming you. And if that's what is happening, you need to cut those relationships. So relationships are forming, they may be deforming you or transforming you. So you need to pick and choose one of those three and say, okay, I do my relationship audit and they are deforming me. That's time to release that one. And even the one that is transforming you, even when it's transforming transformation, let's go back to what you're talking about, the butterfly, from the caterpillar to the butterfly.
Mhm.
That's not necessarily an easy process. It doesn't necessarily feel good. And so even those people in your life that God will send to you to help transform you, you may get mad at them and be like, man, can you just leave me alone? No, those are the relationships you need to make sure you are in correct formation, correct alignment. Um, yeah, I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna stop there, Pastor Misha.
No, no,
Uh,
I think it's important because you hit on something because you talked about the healing, the inner child, and I think that that's a lot of us have gone through some traumatic experiences in our lives, and everyone's trauma is different, and it impacted everyone differently. And so, one of the things that again that sitting with yourself, you'll begin to identify those areas in your life that need to be healed, those areas in your life that need to be dealt with, and in some areas in your life that you just need to grow up. I mean, some things, God has healed you over, you just didn't want to release it. And so, but we, but we have to come to that place where we make that decision between us and God. And that's why it's important. Or as you said, some people may not believe in God that's on here, whomever. So, but you need to sit with yourself and come to an understanding of this is where I am, and then map out where you need to go. We talk about this mapping and everything else we do in business and in in
Right.
coding and some other things
Right.
like that. So when we talk about mapping, you need to map that out. Where am I going, God? Where do you have me going? Like you said, you knew you had to move. You had to come to Maryland because you're going to John Hopkins. You sat down with your father. You looked at your finances. All of that is mapping. The same thing that you did there is the same thing we have to do when it's time for us to move forward in the things that God has for us. We must start pushing ourselves. We need to make sure that we set up a schedule and an outline and map where we are going. I think somebody put up before that the steps of the righteous are ordered by God. So then, hey, put the map out and let it be ordered by Him. When, if you can, I think if you could put up that the boundaries, though, I do want to just deal with that real quick
Yes.
again, the structural
Go.
boundaries, just real
Yep.
quick, because I
Yep.
want to encourage people as they get ready to set boundaries for yourself, that you have the power. Like, thank you for that. Limiting your calls, your visits, and your digital contact. This will help you when then Dr. Shepherd was talking about this, but phone calls, people in your mind and your ear talking to you. Limit the calls of people who don't mean you any good. Limit the
Wow.
calls. This is a new thing we were talking about before, but going no contact. Sometimes you have to go no contact. I'm going no contact. I'm not going to go in contact with you. I'm going to cut you off for a moment while I get myself together so I can have some good headspace. That's okay. Because again, I am my priority. I'm sorry that it didn't fit your needs, but it's got to fit me. I need space after difficult conversation. You need to say these things. It's okay to say and be upfront. Cause so when you start healing, you get grown. When you start getting grown, you have grown conversations. Sometimes I tell people, hey, listen, that's not working for me.
I I hear you. I
And
hear you.
I'm unapologetic about it. No,
Right.
it doesn't work for me. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
sorry, not sorry. So anyway, that's my little rant. I'm going to turn it back over to you because I know we got to wrap
No,
this.
no, no. Let's dialogue about this boundary thing,
Okay.
because
Okay.
this is where people end up messing up because we don't know where to set the boundaries.
Okay.
And what I talk about with boundaries is that boundaries is limits with compassion.
I
That
like it. Hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of my rule, that we
Hmm.
have to set limits. And when you set limits, it's not necessarily you being mean, but if we're human
Right.
and you can't do everything. Woo.
Yeah. And I say with boundaries, mine's is like the fence.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you see your neighbor on the other side of the fence and you can wave at your neighbor. So you're making contacts, you're communicating, but you're not telling your neighbor you have permission to come onto my property, right? Until they prove themselves, then I may allow you to come onto my property but I may only allow you to come to the porch. And we may sit outside on the porch and have lemonade and drink on lemonade and have a great conversation, but that doesn't mean you get to come into the house. Because in the house is where my intimate space is. Now, if you make it into my house, it's because you've proven yourself. And I think this is where a lot of us have messed up. Let me just talk about myself. I've allowed people to come into the house that didn't prove that they should be in the house.
Come on here.
They
Yep.
should have stayed on the other side of the fence or even at the curb.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now that I'm grown, now I have and I am my priority. I now know to say, hey, no,
Yeah.
you didn't prove to be able to come into this space. You haven't proven yourself to get my attention, have access to me, to call me at any time that you want to, and I respond and I answer and I do all the things that you want me to do. That's not where I am. So
Right.
that's my boundaries.
Right. But and let me just stay there real quick, because this is another area that may cause misalignment, is that when you are dealing with issues even from your childhood, you want people to come over and to visit. And
Hmm.
so some of us allow access because we're lonely or feel like we need people to come on in,
Hmm.
because it's difficult for us to be by ourselves and to hear silence.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I said just there's so many of us who are just caught up in the noise of society, the noise of the culture, the
Mhm.
noise of even the noise within the church world. I'm going to say it, the noise of the church world, and you have to literally shut everything out, because even in those spaces, people will pull on you and try to tell you what you should be doing, and will try to tell you that this is the way you should be going. And you have to know without a doubt that you are hearing God's voice, that you're in alignment with God's will. See, here's the thing about God's will: God's will doesn't necessarily line up with our will. And we must ask for God's will to be done in our lives. And
Mhm.
that requires sacrifice, that requires obedience.
Mhm.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, oh yeah. It
Oh, yeah.
requires, just like my church, we have a saying now: I fast, I pray, I hear, and I obey.
Mhm.
Woo! Yes, you all those I fast, I pray, I hear, I obey. It sounds simple, but let me tell you, that's what gets us into formation. Um,
Mhm.
and that's what helps us to be able to sacrifice so that God's will be done in our lives. And I tell you, people will allow access into their homes. They'll give up those keys real quick. And let me tell you, there's some of us, we need to sweep off our porch. We
Yeah.
just, you know, I remember those big porches. They don't make those porches like they used to.
Well,
Uh,
they do down here in the country where I live. They still make them.
uh,
But you know what? Somebody put out here, and I think it's important. Some of these things that we have learned, and I agree with you, the person that said this is boundaries. We need to have another segment on that all by itself.
yeah.
But some things are taught as a young age where if you have, people came over to your house all the time, you let people in, and so you learn that to be okay and comfortable with strangers being in your space. And so then we have to learn, we have to relearn. So some things we learn, we have to relearn, we have to unlearn it and then relearn it. So those are some areas too. But I tell you what, boundaries will help you
Mhm.
as one of the tools as you begin to release what is out of alignment. You begin to go no contact, push some things out your way, as you talked about, restructure your life and
Mhm.
then put yourself on the right path, right? We talked about the mapping. So those are some tools that we gave you. Dr. Shepard gave some great tools. So we've given you some good tools that you can use in your everyday life. I will say this again, sit with yourself, because not everything is not a cookie cutter approach. What works for one person may not work for the other person, but you need to sit with yourself. As you said, what did you say again? Fast, pray,
Right.
read,
Here.
hear, and obey. Those
Okay.
are the things that need to happen in your life. When you sit with you and God, you need to fast, consecrate, fast, get yourself together, and pray. And then you need to hear the Lord and then obey what He says. And I guarantee you, He will order your steps to the places that you need to go. And
Yeah.
those areas that are out of alignment, they gonna shed off,
Yeah.
or they
Yeah.
gonna get in the line.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as we bringing this now to a close, let's talk about some of those practical tools. We've given some already as we've gone through the conversation. I want us to review through them so that we can make sure that we have touched all of them, so that we don't miss any of them. So, let's talk about some of these practical tools. One of them is clarity. We want to make sure that we identify what is misaligned. We want to talk about that, identifying what is misaligned. Again, that requires vulnerability, that requires transparency. We identify what was misaligned. We are knowing that, hey, this is an area that is not in alignment. And let me tell you, just like any bone in your physical body that is out of alignment, it's going to poke you until you get that thing back into place. And I encourage you, this is the healing room, right? This is so I call myself the emotional brain surgeon. So I'm coming for you. All right. I'm coming to poke and be able to give some advice on those areas that you know that are hurting you, to see, hey, let's identify what this thing is so we can get this back into alignment. So clarity is number one of the practical tools that we are talking about, Pastor Mission. And then the next one is preparation, um, emotional preparation, support system, financial preparation. You want to take us further into that, Pastor Misha?
So,
What
so yeah,
preparation will look like?
so with preparation, to me, not only just for yourself, but also for the other people that are with you. And I think a lot of times when we start preparing in these type of spaces, we really only deal with ourselves and we limit it here. But if you're going to make some major changes in your life, you have other people that are going to be impacted. So if you're making financial changes, if you're making emotional changes, if you're making even physical changes,
Wow.
in the preparation, you need to make sure that you're not only preparing you, but also preparing others. If you're going to be taking a step back, if you're going to limit your access, you can make that announcement to those persons. Listen, I'm going to be on Do Not Disturb Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from this time to this time, so that people know that you're okay, but also what you're doing. So I think preparation not only is an individual thing, but also can be a collective. And we need to be responsible enough, not just only for ourselves, but for others that are involved in our everyday life.
That's awesome. Then number three, boundaries is what we talked about. Number three was boundaries, setting those limits. And number four, no contact when necessary. So let's talk about what the practical tools are again. Number one, seek clarity. Number two, preparation. Number three, boundaries. Number four, no contact when necessary. And so I had to learn that phrase. So if you hear your young person saying that, no contact, uh, so we are appealing to all ages here.
Go on no contact. That's a new thing that people are making a decision not to have contact when we're not aligned. And if we're just not aligned, instead of having, you know, tough conversations where we're leaving each other emotionally drained, going no contact. We've made a no contact yet synonymous with cruelty or weakness, but walking away from people rather than fighting for them sometimes is the best thing to do. Because fighting can use a lot of your energy when just walking away and getting yourselves. If I had more time, I would talk to you about Paul and Silas. He had to walk away. He got rid of Paul and Barnabas when he had to leave Barnabas alone. Then he had to come back and pick them back up. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have to separate yourself. Paul and Peter separated themselves. So until they came back together, sometimes you have to do that in order for the work to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you all. We're going to start winding up. We want to make sure that you know how to be able to reach out to us. This has been an awesome contact, awesome time of communication and contact with you all. This is the healing room. So if people are being blessed by this, if you're being helped, reach out to us. We want to hear how this conversation has helped to move you. I want to be clear about this. Yes, I'm a board certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist, but I'm not on here giving out advice on treatment services. If you need to do that, come and see me in my office. All right, I will be clear about that. And I only practice in the District of Columbia and in Maryland. All right, so I want to be clear that there's disclaimers on here. So I don't want anybody to say, man, Dr. Shepherd is my therapist or my psychiatrist, is my physician. Yes, we can point you in the right direction, but we got to go through the proper channels. All right. And I say that with a smile. I say that lovingly because this is my passion. This is something that I want to see people do well and be well, not just physically, but honestly, I want to see them go further in life. Yeah. So thank you. We're putting up right now how you can reach out. Put up the website one more time, drjonathanshepard.com. You can go there. You can hit me up. See all the wonderful things that are going on. I have a newsletter that's out right now giving you some activities. I have some wonderful things that are going to be happening over the next quarter. And if you're in need of direct care services and you're outside of the state of Maryland and or the District of Columbia, hit me up. I might be able to point you in the right direction so that you can get those resources that you need. Pastor Misha, tell the people how they can reach out to you. This is a powerful woman of God, as y'all can see.
I have a website, MissionMaynard.com. You can go there, and you can also get our newsletter as well, and all the activities that are going on where I am, where I'm speaking. And you can also catch me at Conversations at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time each Sunday morning, and that is on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. So you can catch me there. But however you want to get me, I'm sure you can get to me. So thank you. And thank you, Dr. Shepherd, for the opportunity just to share and to participate in the healing room.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to let people know that there are crisis services for you. If you're in the middle of experiencing a crisis, 988, just like there's 911, if you're in the middle of a medical emergency, 988, Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Please know that you can hit that number 988 at any time, and you'll be able to be connected to an operator, to a person who can provide services for you. We're putting up now the National Alliance on Mental Illness. This is another area, just leave it right there for a minute. This is another organization that caters to families. Families need to be able to be catered to for persons who have mental illness. So they don't necessarily deal with the person who's experiencing the mental illness. They deal with the family members. And as you can imagine, the family members need support. So the National Alliance on Mental Illness, they're ones who can assist you in that area. Wonderful organization. I love to support them. So thank you. Thank you for all of that. Pastor Misha, if you would, I want you to close us out in a word of prayer. I want us to leave a word of prayer for those who are going to go back and watch this. Before she prays, I just want to tell everybody, please share this episode of the Healing Room with all of your networks. We want to hit a certain number of replays, a certain number of views. We want to make sure that you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. But I want to make sure that we hit, I would love to see 2,500 views of this episode. I want to make sure people are well and that they're releasing what no longer aligns with their God-given purpose. I wanted to be a space where people say, hey, let me figure out, let me do this relationship audit. Let me see what it is that I need to let go of so I can make room for more. So I encourage you all, please go ahead, do that. Pastor Misha, lead us out in a word of prayer.
I will. Let me give a shout out to my niece Kiera. I just saw her show up there. So, but Father, we do thank you for this healing room, for the opportunity that we can come boldly before your throne, that we can be transparent, that we can lay everything at your feet. We thank you because you're not only do you hear, but you answer prayer. So God, those of us who have laid things down before you, those of us who have been transparent and that we're seeking to be better, to improve, and that we're seeking to make sure that we are our priority. God, help us, guide us, give us the strength, give us the wherewithal to do this. Some of these things are challenging, but God, we know with you, all things are possible. Continue to bless Dr. Shepherd and everything that he's doing in order to make sure people are happy, healed, and whole. And we thank you for all things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. We'll see you in the next episode at the Healing Room. Be in the Healing Room, and good night.